A real life example of one that just happened for us. Guy says to me, hey, I'm interested in your web design. Cool. We have a talk. I share with him my ideas, my plans of what I think we could build for him. Then he says, I'm waiting on a check. People come to me and they say, give me a step-by-step, tell me which niche to go in, tell me what to do, tell me what to say. And even if I did that, like, I know it would be easier to get off the starting blocks, but it would not work long-term. So the first thing is, I'm always going to give the lawyerly answer. If you ask a lawyer any question, this is the answer. It depends. There we are. Back in the game. Excited to see you all, guys. You guys are kicking ass and taking names, which I love. I love seeing the progress. Some of you guys have told me you listen to this Q&A to help kind of sift through what you're building. It helps to sometimes hear questions of people that are farther along than you are and things like that. And we get questions from all over the spectrum. You know, people starting out, building their first agency, getting their first clients. We get folks in here who are doing tens of millions of dollars per year. Probably even a few doing 100 million plus. So, anyway, excited to see what you guys have going on. Excited to see the ass kicking you're doing. Just a quick little announcement before we get rocking and rolling. The Wolfpack this year, kind of reflecting on it, I'll tell you, I've been thinking about like some of the biggest changes we've seen in people, and I'll tell you like two that kind of just jump out to mind as I was kind of reflecting on this. So one is we see a lot of folks up level the type of client where they still do the same old thing they were always doing, whether that's SEO or pay-per-click, but they change to like kind of going after a bigger type of client and often can add zeros on their income. So, you know, like one person comes to mind, they were doing it for a couple $1,000s a month, which is a pretty standard kind of agency retainer fee. Now they're getting a couple $100,000 a week. And then another person comes to mind where they were doing it for, you know, $500 a month kind of services, and now they're getting $100,000 and more per client. So that's one of the things. And then the other thing is, you know, obviously I wrote a whole book, is people who have too many meetings and just want to be able to more beach, less laptop, more the grind. So if that's you guys, I put some links for you below to check those details out. It's probably I should update the video, but I don't know, busy, got shit going on. Anyways, let's get into the good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Finn proudly brings you our weekly Q&A. Didn't know you guys are coming to the Daddy Gun Show. All right. Enough of the shenanigans. Let's start with Jeremy. Jeremy's up. He says, what recommendations for your favorite call tracking software? So call tracking, by the way, very, very useful for those of you guys who do lead generation, because you can actually like prove to the dollar that, you know, like, hey, like we actually generated business for you. So like that's the most obvious use. There are a lot of uses for you guys who aren't. I've always used CallRail. They're always the name that like kind of got recommended. Honestly, I don't know if they're all that great or if I just use them because I use them because everybody else told me to. But we haven't been unhappy with them for years and years and years. So we use CallRail. Having said that, I have used other call tracking services in the past. There's one we use called CallFire. There's another one I use called Grasshopper. Like there's lots of call tracking services available, so you don't necessarily have to be married to CallRail, but I don't know, we've always used CallRail and it's done the job, so check it out. May save you a lot of time and research figuring it out. Javaria says, can you suggest an easy niche to start with? Okay guys, I'm going to tell you something that you are not going to hear elsewhere. I got some ants climbing up my wall. There we go. Everybody wants to find this super fucking secret niche that like nobody else has discovered. And I'm not saying they don't exist at all, but it's fucking rare. Like for the most part, what most of us are doing is going into plain Jane boring niches that have been around for a long time. And the reason they're around is because people are still doing business in them and people are still going to need them. Like not enough people think about like, I want to be in a niche that's going to be around forever. Like, for example, if you work with home services contractors, like, people still going to need that in 100 years from now. Like, people still going to be building shit, and somebody's still going to need to help them, and they're still going to need to generate business. So I don't think enough people think about longevity, and too many people think about easy. Like, if you start a crypto agency, I promise you it's going to be easier than going into home services. But who knows where the crypto market's going to be in 10 years? Like, I'm an active kind of crypto guy, and I wouldn't say crazy active, but I do some of it, and I have no fucking idea whether it's, what it's going to be in 10 years, if it even still exists. So that's my way of saying, like, often, like, the best niches are the boring shit that everybody else is trying to do, and finding some little blue ocean within it. Even though home services itself, or other niches like it, are like crowded, kind of congested space, there's always little pockets inside of there. And I'll talk more about this because we had some other questions like this that are upcoming, but there's lots of ways to find like little uncontested blue ocean. And I'm not talking like little, like, when I say little, I mean like $100 million and up kind of opportunities, which is still little compared to like, like what's possible for business. Like, but for most of you guys, I imagine you'd be pretty happy if you could do $100 million worth a year worth of business in a tiny little uncontested niche within a niche. Caleb says, how many of you test new offers when it comes to gaining new clients? Do you think they should be tested often? After months of testing, we found an offer that's been booking us almost 3 times the amount of meetings with prospects using the same system of teams. Extremely valuable lever. Why isn't this discussed more is beyond me. Well, I'll tell you twofold on that, Caleb. I'll tell you, 95% of people don't really test offers at all because they think their thing is the offer. Like I do SEO for dentists. That's not an offer, by the way. That's what you do. That's your deliverable, but that's not an offer. An offer is like, get all-you-can-eat ribs for $16.99 plus cornbread and baked beans, a side salad, and dessert. That's an offer, right? Like, the restaurant may deliver all kinds of barbecue food, but an offer is a very specific thing. Most people don't test offers enough. And I'll tell you, the best thing you can do with an offer is not try and test it in terms of like try completely different stuff. But I actually think most of the battle is working on continuously improving it in a few key metrics. And one of the simplest ones is like, how can I make it work faster? Like the faster your shit works, the more valuable it is. So from the time the client hires you to like, hey, like that I've gotten a client back, or I've gotten a customer back, or I have money in the bank, or I have sales, or I have leads, or I have something to show for it quickly, is like one of the most valuable things you can do. So you can take the same offer, like if it takes a month to launch a pay-per-click campaign and it works, that's less valuable than if it takes 3 days to launch it and it works in 3 days, even though it's probably the same shit you're doing. So that's one of the things that I personally like to optimize for, is the speed. But you're absolutely right, is that the offers is a huge lever. The problem is that it's not always about coming up with different offers. It's about thinking about how to make the thing you've already got better. And I'll give you an example of this. We had a breakthrough many, many years ago. We were running Facebook ads for personal injury lawyers in our second agency. We were probably one of the first people to do that. I don't know if we were the first, but I felt like we were the first. I didn't know a lot of other people trying it at the time. And, obviously now it's like a lot more, red ocean kind of competitive space, but it wasn't so much then. But there were still a few people doing it, and it was, like kind of humming along. But one of the things we figured out is, like, if we could figure out a way so that when they got a Facebook client, that they could multiply it and turn it into like a referral later, we created these little business cards and little booklets they could hand out after somebody came in the door. It like immediately doubled the value of every Facebook lead that comes through the door and made us unique, right? So there's always ways you can take an existing offer, like we were doing. Hey, we'll get Facebook ad leads, this many per month, whatever, and hey, we'll multiply those and turn those into referrals. What's up, girl? Sorry, got lost a little bit in my question. There we go. Dan says, so I hope that's... Oh, the other thing I wanted to say, sorry, Caleb, before I forget, is I feel like the flip side of that is sometimes people get, they test too many offers, and then what ends up happening is you come up with a lot of mediocre variations, and you keep test. I know everybody says test, and that's like really good advice if you're spending $3,000 a day or $30,000 a day, or even have friends who spend like hundreds of thousands of dollars per day in like the e-commerce world, and that's great. You should test everything when you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars per day. But having said that, for most of you guys, like, I always say, like, I have maybe 1 to 3 good ideas max at any given time. You should test all the really good ideas you have, not like just test everything relentlessly. And so I usually only make 1 to 3 split tests at a time. Like, it's not always a more is better, especially in our world. So I'm not saying that that's the only way to be successful, but that's worked for us. But I test like whatever good idea I have, I try that out. And, you know, so like try and have one good offer to test my main offer against. Dan says, I'm looking to get a good start into this industry, so I'm asking for a recommendation on a social ads course, but I'm not talking about a Google or Udemy Hubspot course, more like someone who offers an inner circle, an online community with weekly support calls, etc. A few years ago, a mate of mine paid for a marketing course, Jeff Miller's. He said it was life-changing, and it wasn't actually the course he's paying for, it was the guidance and the expert help he received along the way. The inner circle of guns in the group taught him everything he knows about setting up his business from scratch. They answered any of his problems, questions, 24/7 community. They supplied him with VAs. He outsources certain services, blah, blah, blah. So I'm looking for more than just a course, more so like a well-respected mentor with an inner circle of experts who guides students through setting up rather than someone who just doesn't teach how to set up ad campaigns. Unfortunately for me, this course no longer exists. Please let me know if you're aware of any other similar mentorship courses, such as the one described. Feel for you, Dan. So I'm going to give you my thoughts. Firstly, like, we have a mentorship for those of you guys who are interested. It is called the Wolf Pack, and it has all of those things you described in it. And you're absolutely right. Like, having a community of people who get shit done and are on a similar journey and have like other strengths than you is like super valuable. So like, I joined the second mastermind I ever joined was years ago. The owner's name I'll keep private because he basically screwed everyone in the mentorship, meaning like he disappeared, he took everybody's money and ran. It was $15,000, just, you know, and his initial was O, so let's just call him O. O disappeared to the tune of 15 grand, not just on me, but probably like 24 other people that were in this mastermind. And what's interesting is I still hang out with like tons of people from that mastermind, even though he himself, and I got tons of value from the community and the support and the ideas I learned for other people, because maybe like I see this all the time. People will come to me. One person is stuck on like, hey, I don't have any leads. Another person is saying, I have so many leads, I don't know how to close any of them. And then another person will say, I don't have any leads and all I know how to do is close them. And like, if those three people just talk to each other, they'll solve each other's problems in one form or another, because one person knows how to get leads, another person knows how to have the conversations and so forth, things like that. So you just see those things where everybody can have like complementary pieces to each other. Having said that, it's probably not ideal for beginners, because usually we find it's just the fee relative to doing it as a beginner is like quite substantial, as where, you know, when you're humming along, you got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, or sometimes we even got people with hundreds of clients. You know, it's just a drop in the bucket. But having said that, there are circumstances where it would make sense. Now, I'll tell you a few things that get people tripped up in the beginning, choosing a niche. To start with, and I guess I kind of skipped that question. Javaria, can you suggest an easy niche to start with? But I'll come back to that now, because that is step one, is actually deciding to me who your agency is going to be about. And honestly, people make this a way bigger fucking deal than it is. The point of a picking a niche is not to find some super secret source of money that is uncontested and blah, blah, blah. It is to write some messaging with some teeth, because you can add meaningful specifics. Like, there's a huge difference between a vague general promise of like, if you're a business owner, I can increase your profits with SEO. That's a vague promise, has no bite, nobody gives a fuck, it doesn't mean anything to anybody. I'm a business owner, I don't think you're gonna increase my profits. Versus like, hey, if you're a personal injury lawyer spending more than $100,000 per month on TV, we can cut your media buying bill by $20,000 a month, and, you know, do that for $5,000 a month, right? Like, so like, you know, you can write some promises that have some teeth and be about somebody. So the most important decision you have to make is who. And the second reason why it matters is because it creates scale. Like, essentially, like when McDonald's first scaled, all they did was burgers. Like, it's if you look at McDonald's today, it's a very different entity than when they were in the scaling journey. When they scaled, it was just a hamburger, and then they eventually added fries and a Coke. But think about that. Like, if you're only doing burgers, like, even before somebody walks in the door, the burger is ready. The reason why you want a niche is so that you can have one deliverable you just do over and over. And I think about it more as a niche within a niche, is like, find something specialized within the industry. So say we mentioned home services. Find a thing inside that they actually want to sell and focus on being that niche within a niche, and you'll be amazed at like how easy it is to stand out, because everybody else is just saying the generic, we'll get you more leads, more sales, more customers, more. I call it the undefined more. So having said that, the biggest reason people fail in step one is either they don't pick a fucking niche, and so they have no like direction in what they're trying to do. And the second biggest thing that like stops them, in my opinion, is they change niches too easily. As soon as they face a little bit of fucking difficulty, they go, oh fuck, it's hard. I sent 7 messages to dentists and nobody gave me like a fucking credit card. I should try. I heard accountants are easier. I'm gonna go try accountants, and they never build momentum. And I'll tell you why this fucking matters. There is a thing in the world called a buying cycle, and a buying cycle happens at also something else known as a trigger point. So a simple example of this is there are people who take in all kinds of weight loss information and don't buy dick fuck all for a long period of time, and then what ends up happening is all of a sudden they book a vacation and they know, I'm going to be shirtless, I'm going to be in my bikini or whatever, and they go, shit, I'm a fat ass, I need to go lose some weight. And all of a sudden they join the gym and they take the exercise program and they start spending money and they buy the supplements and they, buy the diet food or whatever, and they do all those kind of things, even though for like 12 months they didn't do dick fuck all. And it's because something happened called a trigger point. And what happens is we think that like buying our shit is like this little simple binary decision of like, send a message, they'll buy my shit. Send them. And I'm not saying that never happens, but it's usually based on relationships and they have to reach a certain point. I'll give you a real life example of one that just happened for us. Guy says to me, hey, I'm interested in your web design. Cool. We have a talk. I share with him my ideas, my plans of what I think we could build for him. Then he says, I'm waiting on a check. Trigger point right there. I'm waiting on a check, a big check from an insurance job. When I get that, I'm going to buy the website. 6 weeks go by. Nothing. Gets his check. We do the deal then. If you change niches in that 6 weeks, like even 5 weeks into it, you don't get that fucking deal because you're already moved on to accountants, doctors, foot doctors, whatever, right? Like you've already changed. And so what happens is we don't understand there's a buying cycle people go through, and especially in like retainer-based, relationship kind of based, high-ticket stuff. And the ultimate example of this is buying a house. If somebody buys a house, from the time they first start thinking about, I'm going to buy a new house, to like actually signed, sealed, and delivered, on average, 6 months. 6 months! Because they first start like wondering how much they can get for their house, and they start checking out neighborhoods, and they start Googling real estate agents. They might drive by a neighborhood. They might check out an open house. They might even like go visit one. They might even put an offer. Like there's a process they go through, like that isn't just like, hey, I'm going to buy the first house I see because I got a Facebook ad. And so all the real estate agents that like just send one and done messages don't get those fucking deals, because after 6 months, they've already given up. And so this is what agency owners do in niches, is they send one message and go, oh, lawyers are hard, I'm going to give up. Dentists are hard, I'm going to give up. And there are some niches that are more competitive than other. I just mentioned too, lawyers and dentists are two of the ones that are more pitched than other niches. But I'm telling you, like, it takes a little bit of time to get momentum. And so the best thing you can do is lean into the difficulty and figure out like who these people are and what they want, and actually go into their communities and listen to them and have conversations with them and figure these motherfuckers out faster than anybody else, and you'll break through in a niche faster than everyone else. What everybody wants to do is, as soon as it's difficult, they pivot and they pivot and they pivot. And there are reasons to pivot. And I'll tell you the number one reason to pivot is because you find like a new group of people is more in alignment with the direction you want to go. In other words, you're moving towards something you want, but don't do it because it's suddenly, oh, dentists are difficult. I sent 6 messages, nobody replied. Let's go to something else. Oh, plastic surgeons are going to be better than dentists. Like, it doesn't work like that. You have to actually get some time and like have conversations and like, get to know the people you're intending on working with. And what'll happen is you'll understand who they are and what they want. You'll create awesome offers. What's up, you guys? I see Lazarick. Okay, so I hope that's helpful to you. Dan says, oh, sorry, we already answered Dan's questions. But having said that, going back to Dan's question about like the community and all that, this is a secret way of saying like, who you know is more important than what you know. There's a famous trial that went on in the early 1900s where there was a newspaper guy who had been slandering Henry Ford and saying he's an idiot. And he got Henry Ford in the courtroom, who was like, I believe the premise of the situation, I could be mistaken on the details, but he was suing him for libel for like kind of trash talking him in newspapers. And the guy said, you're an idiot and I can prove it. And so he asked him all these facts, when did this battle happen on July 2nd, Tuesday, 1847, right? And they were asking him those kind of questions. And Henry Ford got to the point where he said, like, I don't need to know any of these because I have a phone and I can call people who know the answer to these questions. That's how I'm able to get stuff done, by who I know. And that is like what you're describing, which is, and my simple answer is a lot of times people use courses as a crutch. You see this a lot with life coaches. Life coaches never feel quite certified enough to be worthy to work with clients. There's always some reason they have to delay it. And so they'll say, I need another certification. I know people that got, 4 college degrees and never spent a day working anywhere, and have like zero practical real world like application of what they know, because they're always getting ready. I call it rearranging the sock drawer. So I'm not against courses. Courses are very valuable when you're using them to solve a specific issue in your business. But where I think courses fall flat is when somebody's looking for a step-by-step manual. Because I'll tell you why. If you're following a complete step-by-step manual, that shit ain't going to work long-term. I don't care how good the fucking manual is, and I'll tell you why. Because markets get saturated. And what I mean by that is, I experienced this, this is a big reason why we don't do a lot of traditional webinars right now, is like, they're harder to get registrations, they're harder to get people to sign up, they're harder to get people to watch them. Why? Because for a while, everybody's doing a fucking webinar, right? So if you just copy the webinar tactic, and there's a course that teaches you do the webinar tactic, it'll work for a while until there's like, they sell 8,000 of it, and then there's 8,000 people all making the same webinar. So you have to like, kind of like, I want to say innovate a little bit. Like, I'm not talking you have to like launch rockets to outer space, but you got to innovate a little bit. And so like, the ultimate example of this is Ty Lopez sold a course for getting roofers and general contractors into like monthly social media services. And he sold 60,000 copies of the course. And what ended up happening is there was an outreach script. He sent it to everybody. And after he sent it to everybody, didn't fucking work anymore, because like now everybody's using the same copy and paste script. So you have to be able to change, like you have to be able to take what's working and build upon it a little bit. So courses can be really, really valuable, but I find like people come to me and they say, give me a step-by-step, tell me which niche to go in, tell me what to do, tell me what to say. And even if I did that, like I know it would be easier to get off the starting blocks, but it would not work long-term. Like you would have 6-12 months of success, then everybody would be doing the same thing and it just wouldn't fucking work. You have to, like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to innovate a little bit. So my advice to you is pick a niche of people, learn everything you can about them, and then in the meantime, connect with as many successful fucking people in this industry. You cannot know too many. In the beginning, the only successful I knew 2 other people. I knew my friend Dave Miz, who's in here, and our man Dan Crystal. And those were the only other 2 successful agency owners I knew. And I picked their brain on everything I could learn from them. And with Dan especially, like it was a 2-way street. Everything he could learn from me, like we shared as much inside info as we had. And that was like my little mastermind of 2. And I'll tell you, man, that got me through so much difficulty. Even just as simple as like, hey, I was charging $1,000 a month and he was charging $2,000 a month and he was getting it. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you saying? How the fuck are you getting $2,000 a month when I'm struggling to get one? And you'd be amazed, like you learn how to do it from somebody else sharing their resources. So connect with as many like-minded people as you can. There's plenty of them in this community, so that's a good step in that. But I don't necessarily recommend any sort of step-by-step course. And I don't know if that thing really exists for beginners. Like most of the good masterminds I know are for people who have some traction and are looking to get it to the next level. Having said that, I've been putting together more resources. I have our 90-day challenge. So if you want to see what I would do in a brand new agency, I've like already laid that out. You can search the group for posts about that. What's up? Our man George says, hey, yo, Frankie, how would you get a business to buy into custom AI chatbots for their business? Good question, George. So the question is like one that I feel like I've answered for a lot of people in a lot of different ways, but I'll give you the specifics in your case, which is nobody gives a fuck about AI chatbots because it's a hammer. It's a vehicle that gets them something. So part of the AI chatbot is understanding like what problem it solves, or I should say better, what symptom it alleviates that they're experiencing now, and what does it look like when it's finished. So I'll give you a brilliant example. One of the guys I consult with is What they do differently is on their websites, they put a list of prices. Now, in their industry, nobody else lists prices. And so the typical phone call that they get is people call them up and say, how much is it? And then they find reasons to flake once they hear the number. Oh, it's $2,000. Okay, well, I got to talk to my wife. And then you never hear from them again. And they hate these kind of phone calls. And when they're upfront about the pricing on the website, they get less overall phone calls, but like 95% of the calls are people who are like ready to buy the thing. They're like, okay, I want your $2,000 package. Can I get scheduled in this week? And so when they're selling their website, which is a hammer, they're not saying like, hey, we got this awesome website. Is they're saying we can eliminate this problem of the tire kickers who call you up and ask how much is it, and replace them with people who already have seen the price and already know how much it is and are ready to like actually book a session and pay for it, right? So you want to think about your AI chatbot in terms of what sort of like, if they don't have it, what is the side effect kind of symptom in their reality, and what happens after it's installed. And I'll give you an example. We have a guy in our mastermind who's doing this for cleaning companies, who's doing AI chatbots. And one of the things is that exact scenario. The most common question they get in cleaning companies is like, can you give me a quote? Can you give me a quote? I got a space that's this big. I need this many rooms. I got a commercial space. I got a bathroom. I want my house clean once a week. I want my house clean twice a week. And so the chatbot just asks them all those questions and then has a background algorithm, and it spits out like based on your answers, here's how much we think it would cost. Blah. And so same deal, like what they're buying is the elimination of the tire kickers and having people who like are calling them up, like basically already having gotten a quote, ready to take the next step on that quote. Because a lot of times businesses don't know how to even handle those, hey, can you tell me how much is it? And then they hang up the phone, right? Like they don't know how to close those. They'll never know how to close those. So that's my way of thinking, saying, pick a niche of people you're going to use the AI chatbot for. Think about the symptoms it alleviates, and think about the outcome it creates after, and sell those things. The AI chatbot is almost an afterthought. I'll give you an example of another hammer that, like, for a lot of years, what we sold were like motorcycle cases for injury lawyers, meaning like it's a higher end sort of like expensive case. We'll help you bring those people in the door. Now, our hammer to do that was Facebook ads. So your hammer is AI chatbots and ours were Facebook ads. Nobody gives a fuck about Facebook ads. Like nobody wakes up in the cold sweat in the middle of the night and thinks, I need Facebook ads right now. I need me some Facebook ads. Maybe marketers think that, but like for the most part, like normal everyday businesses don't. So it's like, we would say, hey, for the price you're paying to get a car accident case online, which is usually they'll pay like $1,000 per signed case, we can get you a motorcycle case for $1,000 signed case. It's a higher value, sometimes like 4, 5, 10 times as much value for the same kind of person. For instead of spending $1,000 for a car accident case, spend $1,000 and get a motorcycle accident. And we'll use Facebook ads to get there. And the least important part of that is we'll use Facebook ads to get there, right? They don't give a fuck about that. So if you want to sell AI chatbots, like don't even talk about your thing. Talk about like them and what sort of things it eliminates in the reality that they're doing now that they don't want to be doing, such as the phone call of, can you tell me how much it is? And what'll it produce in their reality? And ideally, if you can show the result in a picture, not words. So like say, for example, the AI chatbot helps close some people and then it spits a lead into their system. Show them a picture of the lead that they get in their email that gets spit into the system rather than trying to describe it with words. Say our AI chatbot will manage the tire kickers in these conversations, and all you have to worry about is we'll spit these leads on the other side out that look like this that you see in your inbox now. That's how you sell it. But the answer is you sell it by not selling it. You're selling it by what it creates for somebody, because it's a hammer. A hammer is used to build things. Nobody wakes up and says, I want a hammer. They say, I really want to build a deck and like have some backyard barbecues, and they're going to buy a hammer to accomplish that. But it's the backyard barbecues and deck that they're buying, and the fact that they can't have barbecues now and they can't entertain guests, that they want to be able to do that. That's what they're buying. So if you sell them the hammer, what happens is you talk about how awesome the hammer is, and you go, it's got a really nice handle, it's got galvanized steel, it's highest quality, it's made in Germany, whatever, it's forged in the fires of Mount Doom. Shout out to Lord of the Rings. But what you don't do is like do that. What you say is, this thing right here is the fastest thing I've ever seen to build decks. You hammer this up, you'll be able to give it 3 days, you'll have backyard barbecues from now. You sure this is the one for backyard barbecues? Yes, this is the one for backyard barbecues. right? Like, that's it. That's what they're buying. Like, this is the thing I need to build. So every little solution does something different for people, but you have to talk in terms of what it does for them, which is what most people do is they talk about the journey, the SEO, the AI chatbot, the Facebook ads, instead of like hey, we're going to eliminate these $1,000 small cases and replace them with $1,000 big cases. And like, you make more money doing way less shit. So anyways, hope that's helpful to you. I think we're on the last question here. Oh no, we got two more. Couple more actually. Okay. Scott says, Frankie Finn, can you hit me with some niches, or how'd you go about finding some? Looking to toy around with some stuff on YouTube. Scott, by the way, fucking genius. For those of you guys who don't know, is really, really like a wizard with YouTube ads, and he does stuff right now for the mortgage broker space, but obviously he's got a pretty diverse skill set. Here's the thing, okay? Everybody seems to like be looking for, when they're in the finding a niche, they think they're looking for some super secret, like nobody's ever heard of niche with all the money that like nobody's heard about ever. And that's like almost never the case. Almost always you're going into a plain Jane boring niche. And I'll tell you 2 ways that I come up with niches, okay? And these are the ways that like work best for me. Is basically every niche is for the most part like a subset of one of 3 different niches. So there is the brick and mortar, like the local businesses that so many of you guys work with. There is the e-commerce, the selling physical products online. And then there is the expertise selling courses, training, information, webinar, masterminds, etc., on the internets where you're selling like expertise. And basically every niche that I've ever found for the most part is a sub niche of one of those 3 things. And so what I think it's best to do is start with one of those broad things that you would actually want to do and go a few levels deeper. So the example I gave for those of you guys who didn't see the answer to his question, but like if I was going to work with coaches is like super general and super broad. So I'd go a little deeper and say like, what kind of coaches do I like working with? And it helps, by the way, to pick something that you're interested in. So for me, that's like, I'm interested in finance and business and stuff like that. So like those niches make a lot of sense for me. I'm not saying that's true for everybody, but like I would love to be like real estate investing, right? So then I would go farther, and the first thing I do is I ask myself, what is the most expensive thing they sell? I call this the $100 bill. And say, for example, you find out like in the real estate, like there's a lot of people who are, they're coaches, they have a $50,000 mastermind for wholesaling property, and they're trying to get people into the $50,000 mastermind. Well, that would be my niche. I would be the one who specializes in, like Scott does YouTube ads. So I'd be like hey, I'll help you sell your $50,000 property mastermind, your wholesaling mastermind, with YouTube ads. And that would be like the niche. And almost always it's a blue ocean because nobody else is trying to sell that. They're just selling the undefined more. I'll get you more sales, more leads, more customers, more. Come on down to Crazy Frankie's. We got more everything. Everything's on sale for more. Problem is like 1,000 other asshole marketers have ruined the undefined more. I just saw a message. Ryan, what's up, my man? So the undefined more is like not what you want to be. You want to have like a specific something. So you start with one of those 3 broad niches, you go a little deeper, you find the most expensive thing you sell, and that's your specialty niche. That's one way of doing it. The other way that I've seen work really well, and we've done a lot of this, is instead of doing what everybody else does, everybody else like thinks what most clients need are lead generation help, and what they actually need for the most part is conversion help. So I compare this to if any of you guys ever played fantasy football, you can confirm what I'm saying. In fantasy football, there's a phenomenon called the goal line running back. And the idea with the goal line running back is there's one guy who like brings the ball all the way up the field, and then at the very last 5 yards, the most important real estate because it means points, they switch to another bigger guy and bring him in, and he brings the ball the last little bit over the field. I'm probably oversimplifying it, but you guys get the point. It used to drive me crazy when I play fantasy football is when you're on a team, when you have a guy on a team with those, you never know who to start, because if the guy brings the ball 60 yards, he gets 6 points. If the guy brings the ball 1 yard, but it's the most important 1 yard on the field that translates to points, he also gets 6 points. So like, it's the conundrum. And so what I say is like most businesses have that are established more than like 5 minutes have some fucking leads already. What they don't know is how to convert the leads they already have. And so what I do is, rather than trying to figure out how to generate more opportunities for them to fuck up that they will not answer the phone with and all those kind of things, and figure out how to close it. Now I'll give you an example of a $100 million business that exists in the legal space. There is a company called Alert Communications, and this is Alert Communications' job. All they do is they answer the phone for lawyers on evenings and weekends. So like most lawyers can answer their phone Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. But at 5:01, the secretary, receptionist, whatever you want to call her, goes home, and they don't have anyone to answer the phone at 5:01, and they still get calls till the next morning. Same thing happens on weekends. So Alert Communications, they're a trained agency of virtual assistants. This is all they do is they answer the phone, and they say, Frankie Finn's law firm, how can I help you? And they take down the person's contact information, and they say, we'll have the lawyer call you back in the morning. So they're a very average kind of agency. I'm not saying they're bad. They wouldn't exist if they were bad. But they're not particularly brilliant. They just answer the phone, take down contact info, and send it to the law firm to call those people back in the morning. And they charge per use. Well, they are $100 million and up business, probably even a lot bigger now. And all they're doing is the goal line running back. So these are law firms who spent all this money advertising. They've generated a shit ton of leads. They're driving all this traffic to their website. Some of that traffic is picking up the phone. And unfortunately for them, some of those phone calls come in at times they can't answer them. So what are they doing? Goal line running back. We'll take it the last 2 yards across the field and we'll bill you for that. They're a $100 million company. So there's almost always opportunities. Instead of thinking about how can I generate cold leads, which is not really what businesses need is like, how can I help them convert the opportunities they're already fucking getting now and squandering? And almost always, because that's the last 5 yards on the field, it's the most valuable. There's niches within there that are completely uncontested and can make a lot of money. For those of you guys who've seen my interview with Mark Diodati, this is essentially what we did with him, is we turned him into the goal line running back. So he was working in HVAC, and these HVAC companies they spend thousands and thousands of dollars on leads every month. Some of those leads pick up the phone and call them after like reading their website and their reviews. And they give out like 10 quotes a day, and of those 10 quotes, like 7 or 8 of them don't land. So they get like 2 deals out of every 10. And I said, what happens with the other 8 that don't close? And he says, well, most of them do nothing. And he said, what if we follow up with them? Could we like punch the ball? And what he found is if you just follow up a little bit with those people and say, was it the price? Is there anything we could have done differently? Could we have won your business? Did we lose it to a competitor? Do you need payment plans? Whatever. And not like he was getting a bazillion of them, but if you call 8 people who almost bought a thing, 8 of them, I guess. I learned how to count. There we go. If you call 8 people out of 10 who almost bought a thing but didn't buy, they're 5 yards from, like, one of them will say, yeah, you know what? I'll take that, and go across the goal line, and you're the hero. But all you did is just recycle the leads in business they already have. So those are the 2 ways that I like to find niches. Niche 1 is pick a sub niche, identify the most expensive thing they sell, specialize in that. Thing 2 is pick a niche that's already established and has a bunch of leads and flow, and figure out how you can be their goal line running back, because you get all the credit for sales they wouldn't have otherwise got. And it's easy to justify your fee, right? Like if they just get 1 or 2 extra deals, in Mark's case, like they're happy to pay thousands of dollars a month for leads they were already paying for that weren't converting. I see Ursula's here. Paul, what's up? We got the party today. You guys missed me. I had a hurricane weekend. So anyways, I hope that's helpful, but like, I don't know if there's some like super secret niche that no one's ever heard of, but I'm really good at finding sub niches that are uncontested. And those are my 2 strategies for real. That's all I do. Sell the most expensive thing or help them like convert what's close to the hole or what's close to the end zone already. Next we got Ben. Ben says, advice please, dudes. My service helps realtors get more listings by bringing them qualified sellers and doing all the appointment booking and lead follow-up on autopilot. How can I position my offer in a way that estimates client results clearer than more listings, but not in a way that lets clients say, you promised me 3 listings, but I only got 2. Please refund me. Prospects want cold, hard numbers, but the market, their area, their ability to close makes that pretty hard to predict. The way I've done that in the past, and I'm not saying like this is the answer for everybody, but Ben, is I just say, depending on your market and things, our typical average result is between this and that. And I say like, if your conditions are more like A, so like in the case of the water damage space, our typical average thing is you're going to get 50 to 100 extra phone calls a month. If you're in a little teeny tiny town, it's probably going to be closer to 50. If you're in a bigger city, chances are we can make that closer to 100. Also depends a little bit how competitive your area is, things like that. But that's what we've done is like just give them a range and tell them what conditions like matter in those range if you've done it before in the past. The other thing is, if you're honest to God, not fucking sure, meaning like you honestly have no idea whether or not your shit will work or not, then what you do is you just like do it as like a pay per result. So like, hey, how about you just every time you close a listing, you throw me this much back, and you'll be amazed. For those of you guys who like are struggling in the beginning stages to get clients, nothing will get clients faster than just taking the risk out of it. And like pay per performance is one of the easiest ways to do it. And even if you don't succeed with that, you'll learn so much by doing. You'll know how to make it work for real estate agents. The other thing I want to say is this is true in every niche, but I don't think enough people realize it, but it is more pronounced with realtors, which is 80% of clients you wouldn't fucking want if somebody gave them to you. Let me say that again, because I don't think enough people understand that. 80% of clients are not worth your fucking time. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One is they don't spend money on like the kind of things you do. And like that doesn't make them bad people, but it sure makes them bad clients if you're trying to convince people to spend money on shit and they don't believe that. Sometimes it's an attitude thing. Sometimes they just like lack fundamental sales process. They don't know how to answer the phone. They don't know how to call people back. They may be nice people. Like some of the hardest lawyers for me to fire were lawyers that I really liked. I thought they were great people. I thought they did great work, but I'm like, dude, you don't know how to answer the phone. And once you get people, you don't know what the fuck to say, and you're not willing to fix that. And so like my shit ain't going to work for you. Right. Like it's just as simple as that. Right. And so, so the reason I say that is real estate agents is a low bar to get into, which means there's a lot of people pretending to be real estate agents that might sell like one house a year, or not even. They just like, they got the real estate license and they got business cards. Like you don't want to work with those people. So I'm going to tell you, if you want to make it work, focus on the people that are brokers of record, that have teams and people who work under them and are established, and ignore everybody else. And I'm telling you, that'll eliminate like 19 out of 20 realtors. But 19 of those 20 realtors, you wouldn't fucking want if somebody gave them to you. If somebody said, this is Jenny, like she's looking for marketing help. Jenny's broke. She won't know what to do with. She won't know what help. She won't value you. She won't close deals. And you'll be the scapegoat at the end of it. As where if you have a broker of record, they've had to have a pattern of spending money, hiring people, closing deals. Like those things have to already be done for them to have gotten to the level they've already gotten. And there's always a reason why they need more of it. But you're right. The undefined more is a bad place to be. More leads, more sales. I get you more, because it don't mean shit to anybody. Not after I've been hearing the more stuff for almost 20 years. So like businesses that have been around 20 years heard the same generic promise for 20 years, like hundreds of times a day. In fact, when I first started in, I want to say, maybe not when I first started, but by 2008, 2009, the plastic surgeons I was working with were starting to get 50 to 100 emails a day about SEO. And the plastic surgeons who are still around, like meaning they've been doing this like 16, 17 years, think about that, 100 times a week, every week for 17 years, they've been getting the same kind of message about, hey, check out our SEO. We can get you more clients and more sales, more leads, keyword optimization and SEO and blah, 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 blah. And they've been getting that message for 20 years. So if you think about it, 100 times a week, that's 10 times, right? You get that 100 times a week, that's 5,000 times a year, 20 years. They've had that message 50,000 fucking times, right? So like you got it takes more to stand out. Like that's why I say like the undefined more. There's just too many asshole marketers. But what I would focus on as well is the other thing is you can help them get specific kinds of listings. Most people don't realize this. I got a friend here. He's a real estate agent, really good friend of mine. We hang out on the beach a lot, and we do a lot of like bro stuff and have campfires and that kind of thing. And he does real estate, and he's not really a business guy. He just kind of like plays the real estate thing. But he'll take any listing. So there's a lot of like raw land that people want to develop here, so he gets some of that. And then somebody wants to build a house, so he gets a house built. And I asked him like, simple question: do you get paid equally on all of it? Which, by the way, the answer is always fucking no. There's always an 80-20 to it. And the land, he might sell a piece of land for like $4 or $5 grand. And then the commission on that's like $300 for all the work and driving around. Like it's probably not even worth it for him to do land. Now, having said that, there's also like waterfront fucking mansions, right? And so I'm like, if I was doing this, I wouldn't just be like, I'll get you I'll list your house. I'd be like, I'm Frankie Finn. I'm your fucking waterfront specialist. Why? Because that's like a $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 commission, right? So if like you're going to do it, aim yourself at the people with money. So don't assume that all their deals are equal. Maybe it can be commercial property. Maybe it can be waterfront. Maybe it can be mansions. Maybe it can be a certain neighborhood. Maybe it can be investment properties. So there's ways to go deeper than just I'll get you more deals and focus on I will get you this specific kind of deal. And it's amazing if you advertise and say I'm the waterfront specialist and you show your picture next to a waterfront mansion, who the fuck do you think is going to call? And especially if you target ads to people who are looking for waterfront properties, that's who's going to call. So a lot of times people don't realize you can position for the kind of work you want. So do that, right? Help your people to get the kind of work they want, not just more. Sometimes you can actually help people where you actually bring them less deals than they were getting before, and they're happier, right? Say you bring a guy a $30,000 mansion. That's going to be more valuable than 10 pieces of land. And if you know anything about selling houses, it's just as much fucking work to drive and show a piece of land. You still got to go there and meet the client, shake the hands, and fill out the paperwork. It might be a little bit more to sell a waterfront place, but it ain't that much more, right? So sometimes you can actually help them win by saying, I'm going to get you less overall, but I'm going to get you way more higher end, these specific kind of deals. So Vincent is here. What's up, my dude? Shripad says, hey guys, can you share suggestions on how to and when to hire an operations manager? What kind of working knowledge experience do you prefer? Is it mandatory to hire a person with a digital marketing background, in-house or remote? Which one will be better? So Shripad, this is my experience with bringing in an operations person. So the first thing is, I'm always going to give the lawyerly answer. If you ask a lawyer any question, this is the answer. It depends. And I'll tell you the first thing it depends on is how big do you want to build this shit? We got folks in here that are just starting out that would just love to have $5 or $10 grand a month to put away every month. We got folks in here that are doing $40 million a year and are hiring their 15th account manager, right? So those are different goals and those are different things. So when should you get it off your plate? It depends where you're going. If you're just trying to build a small little lifestyle agency of $5,000 to $25,000 a month, in that kind of range, I wouldn't hire an operations manager at all. I'd figure out how to just run it super lean with a small team of VAs, maybe a single VA depending on how simple your deliverable is, to as many as 5, and I just keep it super small, super lean, super tight, nothing too crazy. Having said that, if your goal is to get to $100,000 a month or more, then for me, that is not possible without getting operations on my plate. So the answer is as soon as humanly fucking possible. And so as soon as the cash flow allows for it, get in there, but also make sure you have a little bit of breathing room in there, because you may lose a client or have some churn or something like that. And you don't want to be depending on client money to pay somebody's salary that may or may not be there. So once you have a little bit of cash flow and a little bit of breathing room, get operations off your plate as soon as humanly fucking possible. Now, as far as what I look for, to be honest, a lot of it is, I've learned that the single most important thing in really anything in our companies is actually English and communication, and can they learn it? I find that it helps when people have backgrounds, but sometimes it's actually a detriment. Where what I mean by that is if somebody's run Facebook ads for 5 years and then they already think they know everything about it, and you run Facebook ads a different way, and they'll resist you and fight you and want to do it their way because hey, I know how to do this already. You're not going to teach me anything. I'm an old dog with new tricks. So the biggest things that I look for are obviously attitude, willingness to learn, and things like that. And the simplest thing I can give you, and this is true of any hiring thing, come up with a trial assignment as close to what you want them to do day to day as they're actually going to do, and give it to them as a paid assignment and watch how they handle the real fucking work. So we just hired an outreach person, for example, another one in the Wolf Pack to help our people with doing kind of our style of outreach. And I gave him an outreach assignment. That's how I fucking learned. I'm pull this list of people, send this kind of message, do this kind of thing, and report to me about it. That was the trial assignment. Why is that the trial assignment? Because that's what they're going to fucking do, right? So operations managers, it's a little bit different depending on your deliverable. If they're going to do Facebook ads, then make them show you they know how to do Facebook ads. If they're going to manage people, make them show you how would you handle this, and give them real life situations. Don't give them theoretical. I'm not against any of those tests They're like, where are you on the fucking CAF exclamation mark fucking bunny rabbit test? I'm not against any of those tests, but like my tests are like, this is what we're going to do in the real world. Let's see how you do it. Right? Like if I'm going to go to war with somebody, I don't want a personality test. I want to see like what actually happens when we both have guns out and somebody's shooting at us. So think about like, and Perry Marshall calls this the audition. And the audition is like, if you went to play for a band, it would be stupid to go, well, give us your resume and 3 references of your last band, and somebody from HR will call you back. Right? That's the dumbest way you could put together a band. The best way you can put together a band is what most people do, which is the tried and true method of like, all right, you get your guitar, you get the drums, let's play a couple songs together and see how we sound. And if there's some synergy there, you do more of it. And if there's no synergy, you don't. But you audition right then and there, right? And so that's the best way to hire, in my experience, is to like create your hiring process like an audition and like test people on the very thing they're going to do, right? So like we had somebody that like recently in our mastermind like was able to like bring in an operations person and get them off their plate. And the biggest thing they were trying to manage is just all the client communication and the meetings, blah blah blah. Not even so much the deliverable, because they had people to do the SEO and things like that. They just needed to like the firefighting, the emails, things like that. So they brought them in to firefight and handle emails and see how they actually handled that in the real world. And turns out they were able to do it. And it's like, okay, you're now my manager. You're the one fighting the fires and interfacing with the clients and the team and all that. And I just tell you, these are the specific KPIs. Now, having said that, if you have your system dialed into the point where you have key performance indicators and reporting on it, so you can measure the key numbers, it'll make it a lot easier to hire somebody, because you'll be able to track the progress of that manager towards what matters to you, whether that's lead, sales, fulfillment, response time, churn, all those kind of like, different numbers. But the more you have that in place, and actually I've had a couple of talks over the years. So I've been to traffic and conversions in San Diego a few times, and hung out very, very briefly with Ryan Dice, who's like, a super well-known marketer, a guy who puts on the conference. And a couple of times just saw him off in the corner of the room after he was, kind of off stage, nobody like trying to vie for his attention. We had a little bit of, 5-10 minute conversation. And he was talking about his businesses. They have 40 different businesses doing 7 figures. 40 different businesses doing at least 7 figures, many doing 8, some doing 9. And I said, like, how the fuck do you manage 40 businesses? And he said he gets a chart of their key performance indicators, and that tells them what they need to fix. So every morning he just spends a minute per business. It's a 40-minute meeting, and he goes through 1 minute each business. Okay, these are the numbers, let's work on this. These are the numbers, let's work on this. These are the numbers, what are we doing to solve this problem? These are the numbers, can we do that? And he just delegates responsibility based on that, and they're always growing their biggest constraint and identifying them with KPIs. So the more you have that structure in place, the easier you'll find it to bring in like an account manager / fulfillment operations kind of person or whatever. So I hope that's helpful, Shripad. Massimino says, have you ever fired a client? Never! No, I swear to God, if you guys fire a client, you'll feel better about yourself as a human being. You should, like, almost like a reality show. If you got 10 clients, just pick the weakest one and fire them. And I'll tell you, it's the first time you fire a client, one, like, for a lot of years, I didn't even realize you could. Like, I just thought, like, if somebody paid you, like, I treated it as if they owned my soul, and I had to, like, do all these things because they paid me, right? And I'll tell you, the first time you fire a client, it is super, super liberating, and it makes you realize that you're in choice about the whole thing. It's not just like you have to put up with client shit. And I'll tell you, the number one reason we fired clients is not performance related like everybody thinks. It's actually attitude related. They talk down to your team, they talk down to your staff, they're rude, they're mean, nothing's ever good enough, those things. It's like, it's not because like, hey, we couldn't get enough phone calls and things like that. It's almost always like, this person's just a dick to me. Like, in fact, like, that's a deal breaker for me. Like, if they interface with my staff and they talk down to my staff, or they're rude to my staff, or they're just mean to the low person on the totem pole, like, that doesn't fly here. Because like, I used to, I don't know, I had shitty jobs like that, and I always hated when bosses were assholes to me, and I felt like people, quote unquote, beneath you still deserved respect. And help create that. So for me, like, that's one of those first things. But this is a thing that, like, I don't think enough agency owners, like, own inside themselves. You are the selector, not the selected. You are the selector. You choose the kind of clients you want to work with. And the way you do that practically is with your messaging and your offers. You choose who's going to show up, right? Like if I say, for example, like, hey, do you need clients to desperately keep the lights on? Well, then I kind of unintentionally chose a broke person, because that's who responds to that. Like if you're struggling to keep the lights on, that's a nice way of saying broke, and you will get people struggling to keep the lights on. If you have a message that says like, hey, are you finding that like after you pay the expense of running TV ads at your personal injury law firm that is costing you over $1,000 per signed case, and therefore there's nothing left over to pay you, and the only one getting paid on the deal is the staff? Well, we can help you get those at $500 a signed case using Facebook ads or whatever. That's a message that speaks to somebody who's already spending money, has a team, blah, blah, blah. So you want to, I compare this to like, not a ton of times we realize this, but a story that kind of illustrates this. When I was younger, I went fishing once with my dad. My dad was an alcoholic. Like I really loved my dad, but like he's a good human being, but not a good father, if that makes any sense. So I would see him like once every 6 months, and one of those every 6 months we went fishing. And I remember we went to this cottage in the middle of nowhere, and they had just one general store in the middle of nowhere, and they sold everything: your groceries, your cleaning stuff, and they also had bait for like worms and shit like that you used to go fishing. And they had two kinds of bait, and everybody bought theirs. And I was like, Dad, can I please have the other one? And it was like 10 cents more, so he didn't want to do it. But I whined, as kids can do, so he bought me the more expensive one. And we all went fishing, which was basically like him, my brother, and a couple of his drunk friends sitting in a boat. And we spent like, 6-7 hours on the boat, and none of them caught any fish. Exactly zero. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 across the board. I caught 7, 8 fish, something like that day. Now, you could call it beginner's luck. May have been, but I attribute it to like I had different bait than they were using. They were using worms. I used something else. Maybe it was an insect. I honestly don't remember. I just remember it was different. And anyways, your messaging and your offer chooses your clients, just like the kind of bait you put on a hook chooses what kind of fish comes and eats your thing. And a lot of people are unknowingly using boxed macaroni and cheese and cigarettes and like cheap fucking whiskey and going and fishing in the ghetto. Or I shouldn't say cheap whiskey, cheap malt liquor, fishing in the ghetto, and then going, everybody in my industry is broke. And it's like, no, you're fishing with broke people bait in broke people oceans, right? And you're choosing that, and you can stop choosing that. In the same way that if you go to the country club and you like hook a lobster bisque mac and cheese with white truffle shaved on top and you fish with that, like don't be surprised when you get a rich motherfucker on the other end of it, right? And so the first thing is like choosing your level of client is done by where you fish and what you fish with. And then the second piece of that is like what kind of sort of behaviors you're both allowing and also what you're creating. And the more you get intentional about this, what I found is 10% of clients, they are really good people because they're just really good people and they're nice to everybody and they're kind. And 10% of people are assholes because that's just how they are. 80% of them will go the direction you sway them to. So what I mean by that is like, if your onboarding process is like, hey, here's Doug, he's going to run your Facebook ads, right? We'll send you a report in 30 days. Well, then like 80% of clients are going to come out that machine miserable. If you go, hey, this is Doug, and we're super excited to have you, and then we send a package in the mail with a welcome letter and a picture of the client and a signed photo from the team, and there's a gift basket and there's a signed picture from their favorite sports team, like that's going to be a very different client. And so the two biggest ways you choose your clients is the bait you fish with and what you do process wise, like after they sort of come in the door. And so you want to be intentional about those things. Fish with lobster, bisque, mac and cheese with white truffle in the country club, and like be cool to people intentionally on the way in. And what you'll find is you'll have clients with money that are easy to deal with. And I call them friends with money because they just pay you for shit. And like most of my clients, like these are 8-figure law firms and up over the years. Most of those clients, like I just talk to them like they're one of the guys. There's no like, dear Mr. So-and-so, please find the attached report. Like I was just talking to one of our clients last night, and I started the message with like, holy fuck, dude. That's how I really talk. I'm not saying you guys should talk to your clients as holy fuck, dude. But I write a client message beginning as holy fuck, dude, right? And part of that is you can do that when you deal with people and you're cool to them and you have that kind of rapport and you're just being the real you and you're being like in authenticity. And I'll tell you, people prefer that more to like, dear kind sir, please find the attached report in 30 days. So hope that's helpful to you. Looks like that's all the questions we got today. We made it a good hour of me rambling. I see Ursula still here. Appreciate you guys sticking all the way to the end. As I mentioned, we are, as I think it was Ben who had asked for it, who was looking for a place of community where we can all help each other and blah, blah, blah. And you can bounce stuff off of each other and get resources and get answers to live questions, stuff like that. May not be for everybody, but we are doing that in the Wolfpack. I see Valerie. Valerie knows the mastermind I'm talking about where the owner disappeared. By the way, that is not this one. And I'll tell you why it's not for me. I love you guys. I love working with you guys. And so anything I can do to help you guys, like I do it because you guys are my people. A friend of mine says you should optimize your business for MKP, which stands for my kind of people. And you guys are my kind of people. So this is always fun for me. In fact, people have asked me over the years, like, how do you make so much content? And I'm like, dude, I can't shut up about this shit because you guys are my people. How could I shut up about the stuff when you guys are my people? And like, I've been in your shoes, many of you guys, and the same kind of things, and we're all kind of dealing with stuff. And I always say, like, most of the world doesn't understand what we do. Like, we can't talk to most of our friends and family and say, like, my Facebook ads are below 0.5% click-through rate, and I think my ad account's going to get banned. You can't talk to normal people about these problems, but you can in here. And so I love you guys. You guys are awesome. You guys are the coolest. And many of you guys, we have so much cool, just like-minded, non-businessy stuff. And I always say, more beach, less laptop. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to spend all your time at the beach. You can sit on your ass playing video games or watching Netflix. It means being leveraged and organized and making your contribution in ways that work for you. Because I always say, like, for me, I love my business. I love you guys. But, like, family is number one for me. And business is number two. And so you want to optimize your life. So the most important thing is, because I don't know if you guys have ever seen, like, people on their deathbed. I watched a video the other day of, like, people who are, like, 100 years old. And they're not quite dead, but like, they know death can come knocking any day. And he said, like, what is your biggest regret? And the number one biggest regret is they spent too much time working and not enough time with the people who actually mattered. And I think if you focus on the people who matter and then make the business work around those constraints and work to serve, you and your clients, but like, as the second most important thing in your life, and your life being the most important thing, your health, your family, the people who matter to you, girlfriend, wife, husband, whatever that is to you, crocodiles if you're Dan Crystal, wink, wink. But whatever that is to you, optimize your life around that which matters most and then build the business secondary to fit into that. I think you'll build a better, more sustainable business. I've experienced a thing in this business I call the 6-month hero run. And a 6-month hero run is where somebody has big financial success for a period of time, but then gets burnt the fuck out and they burn the thing to the ground. And so it looks awesome because they can tell people, we're doing 150,000 a month, we're doing 350,000, we're doing whatever, that success number is. For some people it's like 10K, whatever. But they hit a number, but they can't sustain it. And then like the business crashes and burns and goes to the ground. I don't consider that like what the goal is personally. Like, I think the best thing to do is like build your business in a way where you feel like you could do this forever, where you're like, it's optimized, just this is who I am and how I work and the things that matter to me. And, the people I like working with and the things I like doing and the hours I like working and the place I like doing it from them. And you optimize all those things, that what ends up happening is you feel like you can do it forever. And that's the place to be that I want to see you guys come from, is like, I'm doing this because I want to be doing it. Like, it's the difference between, to me, having a to-do list and a choose to-do list. Is like, you want to be in the place where everything on your to-do list is by choice. It's like, I'm doing it because I want to do it, not because like, if I don't, like, boss man's going to whip me hard, or I'm doing it because I desperately need this client to pay the bills, but coming from a place of full choice and autonomy, where it's like, I do what I want when I want, and I have fun doing it. And I think when you come from that place, like, you just build a better agency. It's like, it's better for the clients because you're not just working with them because, like, I desperately need your money. You're working from a place of, like, I think you're really cool and I like you and I want to see you succeed. And when you succeed, I succeed more. It's like, it's better for everybody. So and you see it more as like a collaboration and a partnership, and you just like them. Like, when I get messages late night from you guys and from my clients that I have in our agency side, like, I don't think, oh, fuck, other clients messaging me. I'm like, dude, what up? So I think that's the place you guys want to be coming from. And if for any of you guys who are interested, if that vibes with you, you may want to check out the old Wolf Pack. I put a link below in the chat. Other than that, that's all I got. Appreciate you guys sticking with me this whole time. Much love for you guys. May the force be with you. Guys, if you like this video, you're also going to want to grab some free bonuses, which you can get at our website, Beyond Agency Profits. To make it easy for you, I've put the links to it in the description of this video, as well as pinned in the top comment. And we've got a couple of awesome things. This is what you'll get after you sign up. You get some of our best training, how we're closing clients over Loom videos, how we sometimes sign clients that is not a misprint for under $5 US, how to demonstrate your value in like amazing ways, trainings, how to have your clients write the best copy of your life, how we're closing without phone calls, campaigns that we've generated for clients that have done over $100,000, as well as scripts you can use to get conversations going with clients in under 10 minutes. All you got to simply do is go there, enter your name and email address, and then this is what you'll see on the other side. So if that's interesting to you, make sure to click the links below, and I will see you on the other side.